Well, first of all, it's a matter of adding capacity in advance so that you are not finding that your service is down by surprise. Millions of people start using it. You have to be a bit one step ahead of the game. What it means that your service is down. Are you about to turn it off and say, hey, we have issues with shopping cart and completely shut down your revenue income, or what do you do? These questions probably have to be escalated and discussed before you make this hard decision what to do. And you want to insert ML, well, I think first principle, don't make things worse. You should really think, does it really require ML, or link what you do with a sense of purpose. Don't make it worse. Well, first of all, it should be clear that reliability is very important. Even people who are really eager and excited about adding new features, they must understand that if it sacrifices some reliability, probably something isn't right. Because customers love new features, but only if your system works. If it's down, they don't care about your new features.
Hello and welcome to another really interesting edition of the Incidentally Reliable podcast, where we chat with veterans on reliability, talk about some dodged bullet, battle-tested engineering innovations, their war room stories and their opinion on current state of space. Today we have someone who has seen all kinds of scales and has led reliability in some of the world's most renowned companies. We have Denys, who has last worked with Roblox as a senior engineering manager of site reliability, and before that also architected reliability at household names like Twitter, eBay, AWS, and Magento Commerce. Hello Denys, how are you?
Pretty good. How's your day?
I'm good. So, thanks for joining us. We would love to hear more about you also. To begin with, how was the experience leading a reliability team in a gaming company like Roblox?
Well, each company has its own flavor, and if you want to be successful at leading a reliability team, you must put yourself in the shoes of a customer, so you have to become a customer of your own service. So if you're talking about gaming platform, you must understand what it means to play game. So obviously, you install application on your phone, on your desktop, and you try to play your favorite game. And as a user, you try to build like a set of metrics, and they can be simple. What it means to have a great player experience. Latency, right? Everybody hates when there is like some hiccup and you're already being shot or something. How quickly game loads. If it takes forever to load some gaming experience, obviously some players will just drop and reconnect. So all that matters. So understanding specifically what it means to be a customer of your own is a starting point.
So I think your audience is mostly the young audience in the world, right? How is young audience, when they being the harshest critics in the world right now, how are they as a customer when the experience go bad? How would they react, and how perfect your platform needs to be for your customers in your last company?
Well, actually, some adults also play Roblox. So yes, audience is probably younger, but platform is incredibly popular through different ages of people. Customers, if they're upset, they can report things on Down Detector. There is a website, Down Detector, where different companies also have people can report issues if they see something. And there are also tweets, people tweets. So there are different channels how you can see that something is not working. But the best way is to have your monitoring, your observability in place so that you are proactive, and even before customers become upset, you can see that something is not working well. So the most important for us is to make sure that we see that there is a problem and we can proactively notify customers.
Okay.
That things are so good.
Since you said you need to understand your customer, right? Did you used to play games even before joining Roblox, or you started playing games only after joining Roblox?
I don't play games daily. If I work for a company that does gaming, I do play time to time just to see what it means. My daughter loves Roblox, so she plays. But it doesn't require for you daily practice in some games. It's just a matter to understand what it means, right? And then you can evolve from there.
Yeah. How was it different from coming from a background of businesses like eBay, Amazon, Magento Commerce, and then coming into gaming industry? Was it any different or was it still same for you?
Well, it's different because customers are different. So if you talk about e-commerce, people care about checking out. So you look at like checkout error rate, how people can add things to shopping cart. What is the checkout ratio? Let's say how many items were sold compared to how many items were added to shopping cart. It is a different set of metrics. So gaming company is more demanding when it comes to latency. Let's say you are eBay customer or Amazon customer, like e-commerce customer. You can tolerate some delay when you're adding things to your shopping cart. Well, of course, you don't want to wait like tens of seconds or minutes. Yeah, that's annoying. But you can do a bit of, sacrifice, I would call it this way here. When it comes to gaming, no. So delays and how quickly you can react to something that is happening in a very dynamic game defines your gaming experience. So it's different in this dimension.
Okay. You, since you are our first guest, someone from a gaming industry, right? And this for our audience also, who are watching us, would also love to know what are SLA defined for gaming industry in your space. What are the SLO?
Well, it is all very customer focused. So we look at things like how many players we have, like in a given moment of time. Do we have any hiccups in some specific region? So maybe problem is global, or maybe it's localized to some specific country, or set of countries. So and depending on that, you tackle the problem because it might be outside of your domain. Some problems just happen and you cannot prevent them. So let's say third-party outage or some internet service provider somewhere, let's say in Netherlands or in Europe, they have failures and not so much you can do about that.
Yours is one industry where sometimes your games might require high internet bandwidth also, right? But you don't know where your user will be involved by. This is one where you don't have to actually make localized experience as long as if you build anything in English. Most of the countries are English users, right? How do you deal with those user experience where the bad user experience is not because of the game, but mostly because of their internet provider? How do you deal with, do you do anything extra for that, or do you just give directives to deal with those?
Well, you try to do your best. So in this case, setting some points of presence local to specific regions might help, and this is how a company operates. And usually you can have like your main logic stored somewhere in your main data center and have smaller points of presence, like smaller footprints in the countries where people play. And it helps. Okay. So that's the workaround.
So what is the metrics like? As in, do you, when you have to decide about the new presence you have to come up with, do you see if there are that many, a certain number of users are already there from particular country and then start working on creating that localized presence, or you just try to actually do it even before that?
Well, you have to do some like teamwork before you expand on some region. You must know the demands and how many customers are interested in like playing the game. And based on that, you can assume how much capacity you need. So you do this in advance, then you just deploy and see utilization. And let's say utilization is not enough, you can reduce your footprint size. If it's too small, you add. And you have to take into account things like seasonal traffic. For example, when kids, because the most of audience are younger people, when they come back from vacations and go to school, there is a traffic spike. So there are seasonal fluctuations when extra capacity needs to be added, and you have to be proactive with that.
You mentioned about pioneering production chain management within Roblox to reduce repeated incidents. Would you like to put some light on that method?
Well, it's not a secret that changes are risky. So in any company, if you deal with production, there is a certain risk that things might go south. And ability to use facts and data-driven approach to justify your efforts, specifically in change management in this case, are required. So we decided to build very well-organized like set of different categories. What was the cause of a specific failure? And we saw that change management can seriously improve availability and customer experience if it will be set by using the best practices. So basically, I didn't reinvent the wheel. I just brought what I had with me from my past experience and just applied the best what I had at Roblox. Because people are very reasonable. If you come with a great idea, if you have facts and can justify your solution, usually it's very well supported.
But considering your past experience before Roblox, right, with Twitter, do you think there was some any unique consideration about SRE at Twitter, about the best practices they were following? Because that's a completely different industry, right? It's more of a social media.
Right. Well, industry is different, company is different, but it's a small world, especially in this SRE field. And at Roblox, we had lots of people who came from different companies, from Twitter, from Google. And all these people, they come with already knowing how to do things in the best way according to the experience. And they just bring their best practices with them. And all together, the team, we decide what will work here and what will not.
You were during pandemic between 2020 and 2022.
Right.
You were in Twitter, and that was a COVID time where I think the traffic on social media or on internet specifically increased drastically, right? How was that experience? Because for you guys also, you must have actually moved to work from home setting, and you may have to actually change some of your processes to actually deal with those. While I think, I myself was on Twitter during that time also. I was very active on Twitter as well. But I did not see any glitches which I have observed. Did you change anything, or did you see anything during that which we were not aware of?
Well, drastically nothing was changed on the architectural sides. But it's a matter of adding capacity in advance so that you are not finding that your service is down by surprise when millions of people start using it. You have to be a bit one step ahead of the game. You understand that people are starting working from home. You see this traffic trends in your observability, and you just proactively add more capacity.
Okay. How did you approach communication and collaboration with product teams to ensure their needs were met in Twitter, maintaining the robust SRE practices they have?
Well, first of all, it should be clear that reliability is very important. And even people who are really eager and excited about adding new features, they must understand that if it sacrifices some reliability, probably something isn't right. Because customers love new features, but only if your system works. If it's down, they don't care about your new features. So you have to be clear about that and communicate that to your colleagues. But people are reasonable. They understand that this is how things are. You also have to put yourself in the shoes of the customers. You have to understand what it means. Just have some reasoning you can discuss if it's appropriate. And you have to clarify what it means to add this new feature to the production system. Does it introduce any additional risks? If so, what these risks are? And if there is any expected downtime if you're about to add this specific feature or not. And what's your rollout procedure? I always suggest try your change on a smaller footprint. Usually it might be in a pre-production environment. But if you talk about companies of big scale, your pre-production environment might not be might not cover all use cases, because millions of customers, they might click something that your synthetic test won't just cover. So you can redirect some 0.5% of your traffic to a smaller footprint where your new feature is active. And you can see how your error rates or your response time and other metrics are behaving. And if you see no issues here, you gradually increase the percentage till you fully cover your production environment. So it must be done carefully with understanding what it means for you to roll back. Because many people say we have a rollback plan, but I also like to question, when do you know that it's time to roll it back? And if people say, well, things are falling apart and the system is done, we roll back, I usually say, you can do it earlier. There is no need to wait for disaster to happen, right? So if you be a bit ahead of a game, more proactive, can define early signals. That should be the rollback plan.
How, in your experience, how often does it take for you to decide the rollback has to happen? For example, if you roll out, right, you have customers across the geography and your customers are using 24/7. So is it in minutes? Is it in hours, which will help you understand that this release is bad?
So you must have thresholds. And they must be really simple. You cannot operate from like hundreds of different metrics, hundreds of different signals. It must be a set of like 3-5 key business metrics, and it should be clearly defined. Let's say if red line on chart A crosses this specific value, it's a rollback.
Yeah, that I understand. But have you seen any rollback which may have happened after 2 days, or rollback happened within minutes of the release?
I've seen both.
Okay.
Yeah. So typical example: somebody released something, and there is a memory leak, which can be but you cannot really. If you check recent changes, you can really see that it was like roll out recently. It might happen like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
So in this case, the troubleshooting becomes a bit harder because finding this leak is not something that can be easily approached.
How did SRE evolve for you? As in, since you have worked in multiple companies, when was the time you actually transitioned to a complete SRE, and what were you doing before? What was your role before that?
Before SRE?
Yeah.
Well, I started my career as help desk technician, so it was like different era.
Different era of SREs, right?
Well, people also question what's the difference between DevOps and SRE. It's a good question. So SRE are always on the edge of production operations. So they deal with live customer traffic, something that is customer impacting, brand impacting, because if your system is down, it's not only customers, it's also damaging your brand. So SRE always deal with production, while DevOps, they can work on automation, on things in the background that is not directly applying, affecting your customers. So this is the distinction in my opinion. So when I start working with companies who have like large scale, I just got this, new hat called SRE, which came to my plate, and here I am.
As AI and ML solutions become a core part of tomorrow's offerings, right? And serverless computing becomes more prevalent, how do you see SRE practices adapting to this new change?
Well, when we talk about SRE, there are multiple dimensions. So incident management is one part of SRE. Is it engineering? Well, not really. It's mostly technical operations, but it's still under reliability response umbrella. So that's one. There's also an engineering portion where they try to apply software engineering practices to automate your operational routines and just make your service more reliable. So speaking about incident response, when you're in crisis, somebody has to take notes because we need to keep people accountable. What was happening, who's doing what, new decisions are being made. Somebody has to take notes. If you can automate that, if you can enable text-to-speech conversion and have some sort of AI analyzing what's going on and posting updates like every, 10, 15 minutes, like quick summaries, that would be a huge relief. Because currently, somebody has to do that, right? So somebody has to be dedicated to taking notes. This is not ideal. This is how I see AI and ML evolving there. Speaking about making your application or service more reliable, you can apply different ML things. For example, enable self-healing mechanisms in your cluster so that web nodes or instances can monitor each other. And if they see that this is how gossip protocol works, for example, well, it has nothing to do with ML. It's not very related, but still, if you see the consensus that some machines see that some group of other machines is not feeling well and consensus is being established, it can be automatically disabled. This machine can be pulled out of traffic, they can be reclaimed and redeployed and put back to production. So you spend less on manual operations. You don't need to log into the system or click some buttons on some UI and do it manually. So you can delegate it to AI.
Well, I like the part you talked about. Incident response can get benefit from the AI part, right? We are very heavy on, as a product, Zenduty. We provide end-to-end incident management and response orchestration to our customer. Just wanted to understand, like in companies like AWS, where you have worked, right, who are pioneers of maintaining a very high uptime, close to multiple nights, right? So how did you see incident response evolved in AWS? How do they maintain that uptime? Do they use self-healing mechanism which is already there within AWS, or do they have a very robust incident response already?
Well, I left AWS more than 10 years ago, but even a decade ago, they've been pretty serious about reliability, and definitely they follow this principle of customer obsession. So Amazon has this famous 10 leadership principle. They follow them pretty seriously. It was a combination of both. So first of all, we had self-healing mechanisms, so that if some nodes or instances in production aren't feeling well, they can be automatically disabled, reclaimed, and put back to production, or some other host can be redeployed and put back to production. So it was automated. And incident response was following some really well-established SLAs. So what it means for you that you have to escalate, what you do if your escalation didn't have success, what you do if you're stuck during your crisis mitigation, and so on. So having extra capacity so that you can replace broken machines with others definitely helps. And having good processes so that you can link what is going on in production with recent changes so that you can redeploy or roll back things is also important. So having this visibility plus people who specifically dedicated to managing crises, professional incident commanders, definitely helps. And of course, automation seals the deal. So it's like cherry on top of the pie.
Okay. Do you see yourself getting into any other exciting domains, or do you, in the next coming years, or do you still want to actually continue as a SRE practitioner?
I like to see results of my work. And if I understand it does something good for people, for customers, it just energizes me, and I feel this excitement. So I like to be in that. Am I business agnostic? Do I really want to work for e-commerce or gaming platform? Not really. I like to do good things if it provides value. For example, Twitter was still providing great value. It has a principle of supporting open communication. And there are great stories when, let's say, in the United States, we had some disasters and hurricanes, and people were posting tweets, and Twitter was saving people's lives. I think that's fantastic, and it serves the purpose. Roblox, it's also great for kids' education because you can create platforms, games. It's not only for players, it's also for creators. It's also great. So it has its own value. So I'm looking into the value. It's not specifically for business domain, but more about value and the kind of good things it does for people.
So innovation often involves a bit of luck and unexpected connections. Can you share a story from your experience where unseemingly unrelated event or discovery led to a positive outcome?
Well, you want to say whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Well, I think, even a decade ago and 15 years ago, I realized that people on this planet can be divided into two parts. Some of them do backups, and some of them
don't do.
Now do backups, right? So
some of them learn to do backups.
Yeah, and some people prefer to learn things in the hard way.
Yeah,
which I can't say is a bad thing. Well, of course, it hurts and you go through stress, but this learning experience is incredibly strong. You keep it all your life. Yeah. It's like as a kid when you try to learn how to ride a bicycle. If you fails a few times, then you understand, well, now you have to put your leg here, and this is how you balance. And if you learn how to ride a bicycle in childhood, even as an adult, you can do it again, right? So these are things that I learned hard way.
So how should products built with LLMs and AI services approach reliability?
Well, I think first principle, don't make things worse. So if they work, just fine, and you want to insert ML, you should really think, does it really require ML, or what are you doing? So link what you do with a sense of purpose. Don't make it worse. But let's say some product or service requires lots of manual chore and somebody's taking notes, example with instance management. In this case, when you can clearly replace some repetitive work with AI, that's a great help. I look at ML, at AI as an extender of your brain. When, like in old days, telescope was invented, there was extension of your eye. So you were able to focus more light on this lens and you see objects that are far away. That was a telescope. Now that's AI that extends. It doesn't replace, it extends your brain. So you have to take it wisely. So if you have some ideas, don't expect that AI will bring you better ideas. You can feed it some data, it gives you some answer, but you have to analyze and make decision on your own. So don't blindly rely on that.
Okay.
But of course, it can replace lots of repetitive, routine things, some computations, taking notes, posting updates, maybe it's answering some questions.
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah. You mentioned a lot about AWS, Twitter, and our recent stint with Roblox, right? What were the practices followed in eBay or Magento Commerce that you were working before, right? How was the SRE practices within Magento or eBay?
Well, it's still customer goes first.
So
I think this is just the right thing to do. If you don't think about customer and try to follow some runbook and blindly execute things, even if you do it with automation, it's wrong, because you have to experience what customers feel. At eBay, if you see some certain problem, it can be easily reproducible, because if things don't work, there are steps to reproduce. You can click through something and you see this. If you talk about gaming platform, it might not be easily reproducible. It can be reproducible only under some certain law, or if you are from some certain region, let's say from Europe or from India, whatever. It just makes things a bit more tricky when it comes to live user interaction. But so at eBay, it was a bit more straightforward. However, it was also tricky in a sense, how would you... So let's say customer added something to your to the shopping cart and the transaction fails. What are you going to do about that?
yeah.
And what it means that your service is down. Are you about to turn it off and say, hey, we have issues with shopping cart, and completely shut down your revenue income, or what do you do? So these questions probably have to be escalated and discussed before you make this hard decision what to do. Because at some points, you might disable shopping cart so that people stop hating you.
Yeah.
And they understand there's a problem, come back later, team is working hard to fix it.
I think now they have come up with a better solution where I think in Amazon or in some of the quick commerce or food delivery apps, what they do is they still proceed with the order and give them another option by sending them email to complete the payment. I think it was possible by Evolved FinTech. Earlier, the net banking was, or the payment gateways were deeply integrated, so it was very difficult. Now it becomes very easier to track those payments.
That's why. Yeah, that's awesome approach. I love it.
Before we end, we always ask our speakers to share some war room stories which they have without actually disclosing any or violating any of the NDA you have. Do you have anything for our audience which could help?
Yeah, I can tell you the funny one. It was probably almost 20 years ago when I just started my career in reliability. I was managing NOC department. It wasn't in the United States. It was in Ukraine before I deployed to US. And one of engineers was using, so we didn't have Slack at that time, so we used IRC to communicate. And console tools were incredibly popular. And one of duty engineers confused the terminal and decided to shut down his workstation because they've been applying some patches to Linux kernel, whatever. They've been dealing with the workstation, and instead they shut down corporate LDAP controller.
Okay.
And went home.
Nice. Thank you. So thank you for being with me for this session. It is very informative. We've already actually spoken to multiple leaders from e-commerce before, but we have never spoke to anyone who has actually worked in the gaming industry. Thank you for coming here and doing this for us.
Thank you very much.